Hello and welcome back to my channel, Opulence with Gia. I am your hostess with the mostest, Gia herself, the channel of the wisdoms of the water and Marcadians. And I've had a long break from the podcast and the channel, but of course, I've come back with a huge surprise and a very honorable guest that I'm so excited to introduce you all to. And that happens to be Amy. And Amy is the founder of Groundwater Healing and Golden Stone Wisdom School. Well, that is for the 3D world and our social media platforms, but I recognize her as she's basically stewarding all the elements of planet Earth. So she's working with the fairies, she's working with the waters, the fires, the land, the air. She's working with the stones, the rocks, the plants, the bodies themselves. So all the elements of Earth that actually bring her here in her profound wisdom and knowledge on how to bring healing into the physical realm. All right, over to you, Amy.
Yes, that's such a good introduction. I love that. I love being seen as someone who works with the elements because that is literally how I perceive life is through that lens and through working with the elements and the plants especially.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, here I am.
Beautiful, perfect. So well, it's actually funny how we connected. We connected literally on, I think on Convert Kit, like workshop, creative workshop. And I just remember I saw your name and it said, groundwater healing. I was like, I have to talk to her. I
Hmm.
really gravitate towards you. And I went to your page and I saw all the work you were doing, especially around plants and with plants, only because, especially now there's a massive uptake in mushrooms and psychedelic healing and ayahuasca using plants for actually, so-called quantum leaping into
Hmm.
manifestations, removing traumas and so forth.
Yeah.
And but the way you work with plants and mushrooms in particular is very unique because you connect with them from an etheric standpoint and then you make the etheric energy come into the vessel as a physical. And I think that's exactly why I was very fascinated because instead of, really promoting the mushrooms, you're promoting the energy properties and the healing of it without having to, hallucinate and get that whole drug aspect going on it, right? Because now people are really, it's become a new fad and it's become very consistent. And I feel like a lot of, the collective is looking at, oh, I have to do an ayahuasca ceremony or a mushroom trip in order to
Mhm.
be fully open as a channel in the
Mhm.
spiritual realm, which I feel like you can speak to in more depth on how that's such an illusion.
Oh yeah, for sure. First, I want to say I remember going to that ConvertKit like creator meeting, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm not going to find anyone who's like resonates with me. And
Yeah.
then, I mean, I didn't think that. I was like, there's some reason I need to go here, but in the back of my head, I was like, okay, this is like so corporate or something. And then I see you, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. This is why. Um, but yeah, so the there's this new fad of people really diving into the psychedelic medicines. And while I don't think it's necessarily like good or bad, I don't want to like label that, but there is a way that it's taking us out of direct relationship in the here and now. I work with the plants all around us. So when I first started working with plant spirit medicine like 15 years ago, there was no reason to even mention that it wasn't psychedelics because it wasn't even a part of the collective consciousness. And so I would say, yeah, I work with plant spirit medicine, and people would be like, oh, interesting. Like, and think about it as just like connecting with the plants
Mhm.
around us, the spiritual layer of the plants around us. And now, people just assume I'm talking about psychedelics when it's actually bringing us into that direct relationship with the living earth that's right around us and in our own ecosystem and community. Um, and so there's something really, yeah, I think the fad takes us out of direct relationship with our environment right here, right now, just because it's like seeking something that's not necessarily grown in this area, or um,
Mhm.
like needing some sort of like big major explosion in order to connect with your body and receive wisdom, when the plants here, um like the red cedar tree right outside my door, will teach you how to be that vessel, without needing the psychedelic experience, without needing to leave your body first and then in order to bring it back. It's a very embodied exchange, and it's more subtle, but that's why I love working with plants in this way, because they teach you how to listen. They teach you how to listen to your body. Um, because psychedelics just do it for you. They come in and they they impose themselves on you. And I love, there's such a beauty and a gift to those big medicines. Like, they are such a gift to the planet. And I really believe that. And I don't believe everyone's ready. And I don't believe everyone should. I think they should wait till they're called and wait till it feels really right in your body. I knew I was going to work with ayahuasca 10 years ago at some point, and I waited and I waited and I waited. And 10 years later, I was like, all of a sudden something shifted, and I was like, okay, now is the right moment. But I think there's this really big pressure that's happening right now. Um, yeah, I was like, oh, I need to experience it. It's the next like high. It's the next big thing that people are going to feel like left out if they don't do it. And I don't think that's the way to approach those big medicines.
Yeah, I have to 100% agree with you, and especially me personally. I don't ever see myself doing a mushroom trip or ayahuasca because I love being in the ethers.
Mhm.
I'm already such a channel, like a meditator in that sense, that I won't come back.
Yeah.
I really feel like I seriously do feel like I'll lose all sense of my sanity. And I like, screw it. Like, I love this world. I'm not going back into the body.
Yeah.
Just, it just feels very, already very heavy to be here to say, right? Which I love being human. Don't get me wrong. I love my body. I love what everything Earth has to offer. But, the ethers are a very fascinating place.
Totally.
So, and I love being there. So I feel like I would never come back. So it's definitely not for someone like me.
Hmm.
Also, I find that you probably know this better than me though, but like the body's constitution as well, like how grounded you are in your body, I feel like is also really important to consider before you go on any kind of plant journey. Um, because I am more of an Ayurveda, I'm more of a Vata, which is more airy. It's more head
Hmm.
up. I would literally fly away if I take a mushroom and not want to come back. So I feel like if you're more of a Kapha or a Pitta and you're more grounded in your body and you have that strong earth element in you, I feel like those are the body types that gravitate more into ayahuasca and like mushrooms and all of that because they can actually handle it on the
Hmm.
physical part as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think you're speaking truth. And I love that you like know that you would not want to come back to your body. I love that, because so many people do it and just get addicted to that world. They're just like, I need to be back there. I need to be back there. I need to be back there. And then they're not like integrating the teachings of their experience into the lived body and the lived, yeah, experience of being in this physical reality. And it becomes more about the etheric experience and the high that happens, rather than, oh, this is a teaching that then is meant to be lived out through my body and through my yeah, my walk on this earth. And that's where the real work is. That's where the real medicine is actually taking that and living it out. And so that's a thing that I've seen, a pattern I've seen that I feel really sad about, because I think they're being misused in that way. of just like jumping to the next high
Yeah.
um, for that purpose.
Yeah. So I am curious to know because I see pictures all over your Instagram of you hugging trees and, smelling your plants and being friends with them. What is one of the coolest messages you've actually ever received from a plant?
Oh, I've received so many cool messages from plants. I feel like they have been my biggest teachers. I
Yeah.
mean, for real, my biggest spiritual teachers have been the plants, not a human. Yes, I've learned so much from humans, but the biggest spiritual teachers have been from plants. Huh, that's such a good question. Let me think about it for a sec. What I'm thinking of right now that's coming is before I like knew much about quantum physics or anything, I was sitting with Yarrow like I don't know, at least 12 or 13 years ago. And Yarrow was showing me how, like, when you put your attention on something, you make it real. It's like you solidify it into something real. And so whatever you're focusing on becomes real. It's like, um, yeah, does that make sense?
Yes.
Instead of like it's all just real and hanging out there. It's like it is you interacting with it that then makes it real. And then I think I didn't. And then later on, I was reading about the research in quantum physics about how like when you observe the observer effect, when you observe a wave, it
Yeah.
becomes a particle. And I was like, oh, that is exactly what Yara was showing me. That's what Yara was trying to teach me.
That is so cool. See,
Yeah.
that just goes to tell me, like, all this stuff that we consume, like podcasts, books, videos, schooling system, we
Mhm.
really don't need it.
Yeah. If we listen to the other teachers, the non-human teachers, the more than human teachers,
Yeah. Our
where
internal friends are, our original way of getting our messages, right? Our
Mhm.
original way of tuning in, which is being in nature. And like to your point, nature really brings you back into the present moment,
Yeah,
right? All the birds tripping, the sounds, the wind, the colors that are present there, like you just get so immersed with it that you don't acknowledge anything outside of that present moment. Which is
totally.
fascinating. So I'm super fascinated by this, by the way, because I literally thought I was the only weirdo talking to trees for the longest time. I'm like, "You're talking to me, right? Like I can literally like feel it." And but I'm so happy I found you. But I'm very curious to know as well. So, of course, you do profound work with, speaking, getting messages from the plants and so forth. How does that gift of yours actually like how do you organize your circles and your schools? Like how do you bring that medicine in so it's impacting your clients, your students' lives?
Yeah, well, I host monthly in-person plant wisdom circles.
Mm.
And then I also teach online as well. But in person, we create ceremony around calling in a certain energy, a certain spirit, a plant. And then we all pass around a tincture that I've made, which
Mhm.
is just plant medicine harvested and preserved in alcohol and water. And we take just a drop, maybe just a tiny little bit of the tincture. We call in the spirit. Sometimes there is a song that the plant has given me or given somebody I know that we sing to just call in the spirit even more. And then we all just sit and receive and journey. And then we share our experiences. And there's something really beautiful about hearing other people's experiences with the plant because we all have our own unique filter. We're a unique channel, each of us. And so we all receive a piece of the whole. We all receive a piece of the wisdom. And sometimes somebody will share something that will ignite something in somebody else. Like, oh, that makes so much sense because of this that I was receiving. And we come together and share, and it becomes this wider wisdom. Like the wisdom that comes through people in these circles is beautiful. Like it is one of my favorite things is to listen to people's experiences with sitting with plants. And, you know, it happens over like just a little half hour. We're all just open, sitting. And I guide people into, you know, how to open, how to relax, open and receive, and the ways that the information can come through. Um, but yeah, it's just really beautiful. And so when we aren't in person, um, and people don't have the tincture, we create ceremony and call in the spirit, and people still receive from the medicine that way.
Oh, I just loved everything you said right now so much. Like songs that come in, like people opening up and receiving. Because even when I started my business, Opulence with Gia, I was like, the root of everything is that people don't want to receive.
Yeah,
It's really not that it's not available or it's, it's a limiting belief or no, it's because our receiving gets blocked.
totally.
We're trained to be compliant,
Yeah,
indoctrinated into a system and just listen, listen, listen. Don't listen to yourself, but listen everything outside of you. So how are you ever going to receive? Because receiving comes from within.
totally. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that because in the school, I have a 6-month immersion program called the Golden Stone Immersion. And the first thing we do for the first half of the whole 6 months is practice listening to ourselves so that we can then open to listen to the voices of the earth and the elements and the water and the fire and the plants and the stones, from a place that's true and without the filters. So first we go into the body and question why we are the way we are in certain ways, not from a place of like we are need to be healed and we're broken, but from a place of who am I inside? Like, who is the actual truth of me? And can I deeply begin to listen to that? Because that is the place that you can really listen from, the voices of the external world that aren't just programs and uh, yeah, falsities. I think a lot of people have a hard time receiving because we've been taught in capitalism to keep doing and going and creating, and what's my worth is based on everything I'm doing instead of how can I receive and listen more deeply to what wants to be
Yeah,
shared.
like that too. And it just fascinates me too how easily we forget that, you know, of course you'll feel good going into nature because we are the elements,
Yeah.
come from the land, right? Like when people talk about, oh, your roots, your ancestors, and we start mentioning, our culture, we start mentioning a country, we'll mention like clothing, food. No, our ancestors are literally humans. Like we're just from Mother Earth, like our roots are it's Mother Earth. And then we're water, we're air, we're fire, we're land, we're all like we're dust. Like we're literally the elements
Mm-hmm.
that manifested spiritual, physical body. So of course, when we go back home, into Mother Earth, it feels like a renewal piece. It feels so good. So you talk about the body too, how you teach the body to recognize and remember to open through the elements of earth and the medicine that you bring in through your plant wisdom. Of course, there's a like you get so lightened up, right? And you remember all of a sudden that, oh yeah, like there are no limits. There is just everything is available that I require, and I can receive this now. It's just a remembrance. So I love
Mm-hmm.
how you're doing this without actually like you're doing this so effortlessly. You're helping people remember like where they come from and who they truly are. And I love how you're so not even aware of that. You're very like, oh, I'm gonna do a plant circle. We're gonna sing with the plants. People are gonna open, talk about their lives, but really the impact and the value is so deep. Like it is so profound.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it is. And it's so simple. I mean, the reason why I feel like, seekers or spiritual people, they're like I mentioned, like there's a way that people want this like big high. And the truth is, like, when you just come back to being a human on this earth, it is so incredibly magical. And it's just like the smallest little tweaks that you have to do in your life in order to receive that. And so much of the work that I do end up doing is teaching people how to receive. I mean, to soften their body open, like, that is a huge, huge part of what has kept us separate. Like, it's that story of separation that we've been programmed with versus the story of interbeing.
Mhm.
And, I think interbeing was a term that Thich Nhat Hanh first coined. And I've heard this, like the story of separation, story of interbeing from several different people. I think Joanna Macy talks about it and Charles Eisenstein talks about it. But, that is the root of so much of our dysfunction is the fact that we've forgotten that we are not separate from the earth, that the earth is our ancestor. Like you're saying, the plants are our ancestors, the stones are our ancestors. And yeah, we've forgotten. And the remembrance, it doesn't have to be this big blasted open thing. I mean, again, I don't want to keep harping on this because I think psychedelics can have their time and place, and I really appreciate them so much and I honor them. But I think it's a way, it's like this, it's been born out of this culture of dissatisfaction to try to reach for this like big, bright, shiny thing when really the true medicine is just returning home to the body and home to the earth. I mean, that is the basis of so much. And it awakens this complete and utter magic in the present moment. So,
I think that's beautifully put because you're right. We're trying to achieve this high state of vibrational being.
mm-hmm.
Oh, I want to vibrate higher. Oh, this is low energy. This is density. I got to remove this out of my life. This is blocking me. This is blocking me. It's really not blocking you. It's actually not doing anything. It's just there. And you're making the choice for it to guard you, to block you, or you're putting meaning on it. So then that's kind of what manifests, right? Like I personally, my spirit animal is the goat.
Mm.
And people usually get really creeped out when I say that because the goat has been associated with the Satan, the
Oh,
man and whatever. But I'm like, no, that's a hijacking.
totally.
That's a distortion because
Yeah.
goat's medicine is it doesn't see obstacles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the Capricorn.
Yeah, and I'm the Capricorn.
Yeah.
And I'll just go right over it. I'll just climb up the mountain. I don't know. There's a rock here. Okay, good for the rock. Right there I go, right? Like I'm just going on and going on it. But someone that associates in being like, I don't know, a Pisces or whatever, they may be like, oh no, there's so much rigid rocks here. I may not be able to get through. This may be like this, maybe like that. It's like, no, call in your goat medicine. Call it in. Just call it the inner goat and be like, screw it. I don't even see it. Like, I don't even see the problem here.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Because that keeps you in the present moment as well. Because to your point, people are really trying to use these modalities to achieve a higher inner state being. But you already are the highest
mm,
form of manifestation.
yeah.
Water's water, right? And we have air is air, earth is earth, and we have all the elements being themselves. You're all of them.
Yeah.
As a human, we're the entire thing. We're all one, we're a whole,
Yeah.
right? So, yes, you can use modalities, of course, to come back and, get rid of the programming, get rid of the trauma. Absolutely, for sure. But to your point, it should never be viewed as higher than yourself or never be viewed as a pedestal that you have to go to. It's just assistance, it's just the guide. That's it. You already are the high being. No, there's no monsters after you. There's no low density that's going to keep you trapped in the 3D because you have to go to 5D and, you know, all the
Yeah.
D's go together.
Yeah.
Right. I'm guilty of this too. Like I've used that vocabulary in the past, ascension, 5D, higher vibration, low vibration. Well, that's because that's our vocabulary. But if we
Right.
really understand the true meaning of it, the meaning is that we already are the ascended beings.
Right.
We already are. I mean, as humans, what is our potential? It's truly limitless.
Mm-hmm.
It truly is. And everything has its place, time, and journey. And yeah, we'll leave our body and we'll go be that angel,
Right.
right?
Right now we're having a human experience for a reason.
Oh my gosh, yes. You know how much I love eating?
I love being a person.
Yeah, sometimes I
Love
think that
eating. Yeah.
I'm like
Uh,
the food in heaven. Like sometimes I'll literally try to visualize the food there because I'm
yeah.
just like, because if you don't have a body, why would you eat? You wouldn't eat. And
Yeah.
I enjoy my food. I enjoy the textures, the flavors, the aromas, the comfort of a hot chocolate, like on a snowy day. All
Mm.
that pleasure we have as being humans is something that we really need to focus in on. And honestly, I feel like we really need to protect that resource,
Mm.
which is the joy.
Uh-huh. Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh, there's so many things you said that I wanted to comment on. One, first being just talking about that energy of like ascension and, trying to do better and like vibrate higher. It all comes from a place of lack, or it comes from a place of like, I am not good enough as I am right now. Like I can't honor the being who I am inside. I have to be different. I have to change. I have to vibrate higher. Like all of this stuff, it comes from that place of yeah, not fully believing the wholeness that actually resides within. And so much of my work, while it can look like healing, like I perceive that as just stripping away the layers that are not you. So then you can be your wholeness here and now and not feel the need to get out of your body or like make your life any better, or, it just happens naturally when you are living in the wholeness of yourself connected with your body. And, there is something to say about really like that. I just do feel like that trauma work and nervous system work is so key and helping the body feel safe, because there's only so much that the mind can decide on. It's, the body will have its own experience. And so until you like really feel and really are with the body and what it's experiencing, I feel like we can't overstep that part. So it's not what I'm saying. Like we need to be with the body, but it's still that experience of being um, whole within. Like you don't try to jump out of it. You go in. You be with all of the parts of the self. So that's one thing that I feel really strongly about. But the other thing you're saying, that when you're talking about like eating and experiencing the pleasure of being in a body here, I was just seeing the way that everything we consume is like, a part of the earth and a part of a living consciousness. And we get to commune, like we get to take that in and experience that just the same way as when we take in a plant medicine, we're receiving the blueprint of it, we're receiving the medicine of it. So we get to experience that in our body. And I just don't think that that happens in the disembodied states. Like we get to fully commune with the living earth via food, via the waters we drink, and receive that imprint in us and how that gives us insight. Just the same way we're sitting with a plant. You do the same way with living water. You do the same thing with an apple from a tree. And if you really sit with that experience, you receive the nourishment, the medicine,
Mhm.
and the wisdom that is embedded in that earth being that you're consuming that becomes you.
Exactly. And that just takes me back exactly to what we've been talking about, remembrance of that you are the whole being, that everything you consume, your thoughts, your food, the air, the water, the knowledge, everything you consume will literally calibrate to you,
Mm,
right? So if you're so if you're, consuming and consuming and you're trying to really, let's just say, for example, you're trying to build muscle,
hmm
a high protein diet going on, and you truly believe in your thoughts, okay, if I have, 60 grams of protein for breakfast, like 120 here, I'm going to get muscle. Yes, you are.
hmm
Yes, you are. And your body doesn't care if it's coming from fish, chicken, beef, a powder, a vegetable. It doesn't care. Why? Because whatever you consume now is going to calibrate to that energy that you've already accumulated in the body. Because
Mm,
to your point as well, you've kind of prepped the body to receive that
right.
as well. You've kind of done that discussion with the body, right? So it comes, yeah, like everything calibrates to you. So what can be greater than you or more important than you? Absolutely nothing. Like absolutely nothing. Like the job you're running after, the relationship you're trying to catch, you're trying to, bring down all these things and land them.
Mm,
Well, if they're not landing, okay, why is it not calibrating to you?
hmm
Right? What are you consuming, or what are you, the self-talk or your routine, your habits? What is happening that it's not allowing this to calibrate to you? It's not
Totally.
that it's not available.
Right. Yeah. And again, so much of that I think has to do with like the way that we were programmed or the trauma we experienced that just has gotten stuck in the body that we haven't been able to fully heal or fully see or fully complete. I do think that everything, every energy in the universe wants to be witnessed. Like it wants to be seen. Just kind of going back to that conversation of like when you look at something, you make it real. Like it's like I want that like witness so I know that I'm real. In the same way, I feel that there's these parts of us in the body that have gotten are stuck in some ways in a belief or in a feeling that they didn't get to express because it wasn't safe. And until we go in and we're like, "Hey, I see you. I feel you." That's when they can shift.
Mhm.
That's when they can release. That's when they can be held and brought into the wholeness of ourselves versus being compartmentalized off into a part of us that then is like consuming so much energy and taking so much energy from us in order to stay separate. Like when we go in and we're like, oh, hey, like this was really painful, and allow yourself to cry or allow yourself to feel the rage or allow yourself to let that feeling that's trapped in there move, then we can come into that place of wholeness and be able to receive. Because, like you're saying, sometimes things just don't land. And part of that's because we're have these parts of ourselves that are just completely, fully believe that they're not worthy. And
Yeah.
so, of course, and it might not be conscious, it's in the body, stuck in the body somewhere from when you were 3 years old. And so it's not going to land no matter what you do, no matter how much manifestation you try or all the things, it's not going to land until you get to be present with yourself and present with the body and recognize your innate um, wholeness within and like bring those parts in. Oh yeah, here you are. I got you. We're in this together now. You don't even have to, you don't have to worry about that anymore. And that's a long process. It can be a long process. It can happen quickly, but the commitment, I guess, to listening to yourself, the commitment to listening to what the body is sharing with you is so liberating, and that will liberate you way more than trying to achieve something outside of yourself or trying to um, ascend in a certain way or trying to only think positively, like, because that bypasses the actual feeling of what's in there. And once that's recognized and honored, it can move out, and then you won't even have to try because it just will be your energy. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. That absolutely does. Like the self-acceptance piece for sure to make everything calibrate and of course manifest. And I've been over that word for ages now of manifesting and so forth because like I say, we are the greatest manifestation and everything kind of like it calibrates to you eventually, right? But I 110% understand what you're saying about, really being in the body with your nervous system and
Mhm.
accepting all parts of you and understanding that, it's not your fault.
Mhm.
It really isn't. And moving away from victim mindset as well. Coming back in the body with the nervous system. And nervous system is key, by the way. And, even for me, before I became the channel for Mother Agua, like I actually, the only reason I was able to land this higher consciousness or this
Mhm.
awareness was because I was actually in a somatic healing program for 12 weeks.
Mm. Mhm.
Because my body would shake nonstop randomly. And of course, I went to, functional medicine doctors. I was constantly told, oh, you have high rate of anxiety. You're
Uh-huh.
having a panic attack, take a pill. Do breath
Oh.
work, having a panic attack. Oh boy, that's not working. Right. So I sought out like a somatic healer, who I love to bits. She was amazing to work with. Um, in that program, I started to really feel myself. And the
Mhm.
way my intuition had lit up and my connection with the water element just kept growing and growing and growing. It was like me being prepared for the next chapter of my life without me even realizing what am I really doing? Because I just thought, oh, I have to go heal my nervous system because I'm just shaking all the time. And I don't know why I shake so much,
Mhm.
especially the topic of money. Like, what is this? So doing that, like, cleared out this massive, like, old stories out of the body.
Yeah,
So the new ones I wanted to keep and the memories that I wanted to build are now being manifested.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I love that because it speaks to so many layers. Like,
Yeah.
well, first of all, I always perceive anxiety as there's something under the surface that hasn't been felt and that needs to be felt. And it's just this anxiousness because you're not dropped in to feel to move it out. So when you drop into the body, like you're saying, you can feel it, you can move it. And then there's no reason for that anxiety to be there anymore because it's just like an uncomfortability because you're not acknowledging what's actually truly felt in the body. And, whenever I have anxiety, I'm like, oh, what is it that I don't want to feel? And I go into that. I'm like, what is it? Oh, I don't want to feel helpless in this situation. And then
Oh,
I really have to feel that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I get to feel it. And then everything clears and I don't feel like anxious anymore. I don't even feel helpless anymore. It just shifts everything. But it's like there's a feeling that wants to be like, again, it wants to be witnessed. And until it's witnessed, it's not going to move, is the way that I've experienced it. So when you're in that somatic program and you're able to just be with the body, allow the nervous system to have its expression, to feel held and safe in, yeah, being able to feel and um, yeah, then you have more space for the actual truth of who you are underneath that.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's such a beautiful story.
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious to know now, actually, because I feel like a lot of people suffer with anxiety and they're not aware, right?
Hmm.
Because they're so busy being distracted from it,
Uh-huh.
right? Like, oh, I'll listen to music, I'll watch Netflix, I'll just go to the gym. I'll just like, they're not addressing it, like, they're not witnessing it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that happens a lot, but also I do find because for me, the anxiety, because I did that, I was in distraction energy. I was like, oh, tomorrow, I'll see you with this tomorrow. I'll just go to the gym now and whatever. But for me, it became physical. Like my physical body would shake because it really wanted my attention.
Mhm.
So I'm very curious to know now, what plants or, even in conversation, if you don't consume them as like a medicine, what plants can help you through anxiety?
Oh, it's really, I would say it's really personal, just based on what is actually happening underneath the surface, because anxiety can be rooted in so many different things. But I would say, with that caveat, I do feel like any of the trees, because they really help bring us back into relationship with the deep earth, with the rootedness and the sturdiness to help us feel safe. Red cedar, I love working with red cedar because yeah, she is just such a plant that brings us back into connection with our body and connection with the fact that we are held, that we are can be in our center and we can feel held. Um, Another plant I love working with for anxiety is aspen, quaking aspen. And you can like the signature of the plant is like the shaking leaves, they just get shaken with by the wind. And so that can be a signature of someone who gets like flustered really easily or can go into that anxious state really quickly. But aspen is this really special being, kind of like a mushroom, actually, where her roots are the actual living being, like they're, excuse me, um, the individual, I guess. And then she sprouts up trees, just like little mushrooms. And so the trees are genetically identical. And
Wow.
so so the actual being is the root system underground. So you'll see like a patch of aspens all turn yellow at the same time. That's one living being. So the trees are actually, it's like a communal species. And something that aspen helps us remember is that we're not alone because of that. It's like, oh, we are anchored into this wider underground network of community. And then once we remember that, we can become our individual expressed self while also remembering that we're part of a wider whole. Um, and also just does bring that like excess air down into the body to be felt. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Because I love hugging trees because they look like our nervous system.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense. Of course, they would know how to regulate your nervous system and regulate the anxiety and filter of all that negative ions and everything we've picked up throughout the day. So, oh boy, there you go. That's free medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I really do think like whatever plant is calling to you is the one that you need to work with. Like you're on a walk. One of the things I love to do with my students is just have them go for a stroll through the woods or through even the city streets and just be open and listen. And do you find that there's one plant or one tree that is calling over to you or intriguing you more this spring than any other flower? You know, it's so fascinating to me how every spring for me, there's a different flower that captures my attention where I'm just like, oh my gosh, you are the most beautiful flower I've ever seen. And, it's been in front of me for my whole life, but it's the first time I'm really seeing it and really being drawn in and appreciating it. And that's a cue to me that this plant is wanting to work with me or has a frequency of medicine that my body um, is wanting or needing to learn from, or there's something about this relationship that is the next thing for me to explore. So just following the body again, as always, but following the body and as to where you're led. And I will say, because I just have to, that don't nibble or consume any plant that you aren't 100% sure of the identification, because there are some plants that are poisonous. So if you are just drawn to some plant that you have no idea what it is, don't consume it until you are sure of what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I feel like I can talk to you forever because there are a billion plants on the planet. And of course, you're very connected. and with the songs. Do you offer anything that do you have an offering that like if people want to come to you and just get songs out of the plants?
I don't actually, but that's a good
That'd be a good one.
yeah.
I would definitely come.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a gathering called Plants and Chant that happens every summer that someone it's like a song, it's basically like a song gathering for plants. So that's a good place to go, even though it's not through me. But um yeah, I don't that I really like that idea though.
Okay, yeah, you can have it. You can have not your first customer. For sure. Are you feeling completion?
Yeah, I feel good.
Me too.
I feel
So
like we could talk for another hour, but this feels like a good place to stop.
I agree. All right. If you want to just let the listeners and the audience know where they can find you and how they can get in contact with you if they are interested in joining one of your circles.
Yeah, so my website is groundwaterhealing.com. And you can find me on Instagram at groundwater healing. And then I also have the Golden Stone Wisdom School, which is basically where I teach all my classes, and you can create a free membership to it. It's a platform on Mighty Network. If you go to goldenstone.love, and you can just join in the gathering place where there's a community, and it'll keep you updated on the events that I do and free articles and some videos over there. So, yeah, those are the ways.
Beautiful. Well, Amy, it was great chatting up with you. You've given some good, I would say, golden nuggets.
Mhm.
Appreciate that so, so much. And of course, I will have everything linked below in the description where you can find Amy, all her socials, her website, of course. And thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Please like, comment, subscribe, and let us know what your greatest takeaway was. And as usual, keep thriving because we came here to thrive, not just to survive.